Hello and welcome to another Tribal Council video for the Tendua Tribe. We are down to the final 9, and as you can see, we had a pretty interesting immunity challenge on Thursday where it was a team challenge, and the winning team was Brian, James, and Jordan. So the 3 of them cannot receive any votes today, which means that the other 6 players are the only ones in danger of joining the jury. So it's super exciting and also really interesting in terms of players kind of not teamed up with the people that are in their same alliances for the most part. So there was certainly some discussions around if winning was even worth it, and we're going to get to that a little bit. And maybe I'll ask you about that, Kyle, while you're here. Did you hear some discussions around would it be worth it to win this one or better to throw it?
Yeah, like there was early talk about throwing it, which, you know, I guess might have been a little bit of karma coming back around. But yeah, you know, I think when you have people split into, you know, like the groups that they were in, like there's obviously some strategic discussion happening before the challenge even starts, right? So I think you know, when rewards come out and when idols come out, you start to feel a little bit more vulnerable. Like all of a sudden now you're relying on someone that maybe like wasn't part of your group to keep you safe, right? And like you're not in control of your own fate at that point in that type of challenge.
Right. Thanks, Kyle. James, how does it feel to win your first individual immunity of the season?
Oh, it feels great. It feels great knowing that you're safe. Like went for a long hike up a mountain today, and you know, not worried about getting booted off today. And yeah. Like finding out that I was paired up with Brian and Jordan, there was no throwing it for me. I'm like, this is my chance to win the immunity. Probably the only chance that I'm going to win immunity. So yeah, feels great.
Awesome, man. Brian, I'll ask the same question. Obviously, as somebody who was the top performer in the tribal portion of the game, how did it feel to kind of get the monkey off your back and win your first individual immunity?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's the first time I really tried. I didn't really feel super targeted for the other challenges, so it's nice to have like a break where I didn't have to like be right at my computer and have everything set up. Not that I didn't try, I just didn't prepare as much for previous ones. But this one, like with other people, again, I don't want to let them down, so I was ready for this one.
Are you starting to read the encyclopedia now, or what?
No. Just, you know, having like 4 computers ready, a notepad, you know. No, I'm exaggerating, but you know, at least an iPad and a computer.
Thanks, Brian. John, you received the majority of votes at the last tribal council. We didn't really get to talk about that. What do you think happened there? And do you feel that, you know, that target continued into this vote?
Well, there was 9 of us left, and then I guess that was the name that people could get behind, as easy as that, right? And I think I don't know if people are scared, but I think people are just trying to posture on the name to go behind. So if you can find a name that every 6 people or at least half the tribe can agree on, then it's sort of easy to go that way, right? So right. I think from here on out, you never know what's going to happen, right? I think after receiving 6 votes in 1, that means they clearly want you gone. So I think the rest of the way, and we are getting the rest of the way, right? Pretty much everybody's posturing to try to get to the finals to make it. So you'd be sort of stupid to not think that your name isn't there. It might come later, but it has to be like a possibility. Everybody's name's going to go through the chance to be like, okay, are we going to go this guy today or not? Or this girl, including April. So.
Was it an easy decision to use your idol, considering you'd only just won it a day or so before?
Yeah, I think it's sort of, you're always like, oh, I want to save it. But then I think the people, you know, you hear different things, and it's probably one of us 3, so you might as well save it, right? You don't want to go home with that in your pocket. You never do, right? It's sort of Survivor 101, right?
Right, and thank you. April, you know, one thing that we've talked about kind of over all these videos has been the different alliances that are pretty apparent. you're somebody who's potentially caught in the middle of an Ulu alliance. Now you have Graham and Jordan on your tribe as well. How do you decide whether to work with the people you've been working with or kind of start fresh now that you have, some other people in the tribe to work with?
Yeah, that's kind of tough. I mean, I've kind of been basing it off of who's really done what they said they're going to do leading up to this point, because at the end of the day, I don't really know anybody before the game except for Graham and Jordan. Right at this point, I don't think I've really met anybody. So all I can go by is people who are voting the way that they're saying they are, and there's no surprises that are coming up when you're working with them. But I mean, when you get down to this many people, that kind of changes with every vote, right?
Graham, are you able to answer the same question?
What's the question?
How do you decide whether, so you're an example of somebody, you worked with the folks on Navala for a number of weeks, and then now we're thrust onto the tribe with some other folks, back with Jordan again, now with April. How do you decide whether to leave your old group behind and start with the new people, or how's that decision process like for you?
Honestly, it's like it's a tribal to tribal decision. Things aren't going the way I expected that they would at the beginning of the game, but I always knew that at some point by the end of the game I'd be, aligning with April. I was expecting it to happen a few votes from now, but I mean it was going to happen eventually anyway, so why not now?
Right. Thanks, man. John, earlier in the game, the alliances were some of the alliances were pretty clear. Are you able to give us a little bit of an analysis of what you think the alliances are today?
Well, obviously, there's the Bastards, and then there's the Hamiltons on paper, and then I think everybody else, but within those alliances, I think everybody else is sort of in people's pecking order or no vote list. So I think everybody's trying to posture themselves to get maybe not so much I won't work with you, but I won't vote you kind of thing. So I think everybody's trying to figure out, make deals along the way, and they're going to have to be broken, obviously. But those obviously are the two that are apparent. Everything else is sort of, you can sort of guess it, or you sort of try to put the numbers together, but there's no way of knowing for sure. Right?
Right. You mentioned something interesting, and I'm going to throw it to Kyle now, because it's something, Kyle, that you kind of, a strategy that you employed earlier in the game was, let's just not vote for each other, right? Like, you're kind of working with people and convincing them not to vote for you, and you saying you wouldn't vote for them as well. Is that are you trying that same strategy now that you're in the merge?
No. Definitely not making like promises to people.
Those deals, yeah.
Like I won't vote for you. Now I'm more into that. Like I want to work specifically with people. But I mean, that's proven a bit difficult too. So we'll see. I think these votes are getting super interesting now because, first of all, like there are still people in the game that I made promises to earlier in the game that I will keep, and I told them I will keep them. I don't know if that works both ways, but that's not my problem. In terms of I think what you're seeing, like other people and other groups starting to have a hard time managing their pecking orders, and I mean I did use that strategy early, but I tried to keep it to a smaller so that I wouldn't end up in the situation that I think some people are maybe finding themselves in right now.
Right. Thanks, Kyle. Paul, you're somebody who I think we viewed once the merge hit as somebody who could potentially not switch between alliances, but maybe choose between alliances. How has the merge gone for you so far, and how do you decide what to do on a vote like this? And we can't hear you. You might need to just unplug your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, way better.
Okay, so I would say that it was probably pretty clear that I was obviously playing in the middle
post emerge. And I'm not gonna lie, I love that position. It was great. I thought it was going to take me pretty far, but a couple of things changed in the last few days that sort of broke that position, and I had to choose sides, and I chose a side. And at no point in this game have I ever really made a true promise. I've always said, sure, I'm aligned here and there, but never really gave my word. I gave my word this time, and I'm not going to break it. So I just kind of stuck with that.
Are you able to shed any light, in addition to what John said, about the two alliances that you were choosing between?
Like who were in those two sides?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why not? So I had always thought that, there was obviously the ULO side, which I was in, but when Chelsea left, Kyle had to choose a side, and I think he chose one side. And then there was another side with the Bastards. And the Bastards were always one group that people were always targeting. And I made a choice on one of those sides.
Right.
Which side?
Thanks, man.
Which side?
Yeah.
Oh, I ended up with the Bastards.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Fair enough. Brian, as somebody who worked with Paul through the votes on Ulu, is that surprising for you to hear, or like did you work to try and keep Paul with you in April?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, it's not surprising. I think it was clear it was working the middle, and then as leading up here, it was clear that sides are being chosen, and that's fine. But yeah, no, I think I was working. I reached out to Paul and tried to get him to work with us. I reached out to, I mean, it's sort of my game. I reached out and tried to work with different people. So yeah, no, I was definitely trying to get different people to work with me and people I was aligned with, and that definitely includes Paul.
Thanks, man. James, do you think, if there are two alliances, do you think it's clear who is leading or kind of pushing the strategy of the two alliances, yours included?
Yeah, well, it's pretty clear on our side, the Bastards, who's taking charge, but it's kind of hard to know. When what your enemies are doing or whatever the other side is doing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think there are a couple people, 2 or 3 people, I think, are dictating how things are working and creating deals and whatnot in this game. So yeah.
Thanks, James. Kyle, do you think that some players, given how few players are left in the game, some players are needing to work against their own maybe best interest or their own perceived best interest just to keep other people really on side with them?
Yeah, I think that this point of the game is interesting because early in the game, like, your best interests often line up with a larger group of people, right? Or they're more concrete within your circle. But when you get, like, just to touch on the question you asked earlier, when you get to this point and people have promises that they don't want to break, like, everyone's best interest changes, right? And like, one person's best interest might be just getting through tonight's vote. Another person's best interest might be keeping someone in the game, and another person might not be thinking about even having to worry about votes against them for another couple of tribals, right? So definitely, I think it's hard to manage those things for sure.
Do you feel like, obviously when the merge hit, that there was a lot of attention on you and Chelsea and Sharon, kind of your allies. Do you feel things have calmed down a little bit on your end, or that you're still in people's minds? No. And,
I mean, I like that you guys are thinking about me. It makes me feel good. But, like, I think that, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try and advocate or pitch, like, working with me. Like, I found it really difficult to get people, like, alongside me when, I mean, the reality of the situation is like, I think I broke one promise, and I'll apologize to Graham every time we're on one of these tribals because I lied right to his face. But it's funny because like there's you can't manage a perception, right? People have a perception, they think that you're shifty or that you lie to people, and that's just the way it is. So I think for me, like it's definitely been a scramble. Like performance on individual challenges earlier in the game has definitely enabled me to stay in the position I'm in, and hopefully will continue. But you know, I for a while I felt like I'm not too long for this game, and I'm good with that. So like it's
Right.
but you know, whatever happens, happens. So
Thanks, Kyle. April, obviously, to Kyle's point that he just brought up, is he was basically the one that sent Graham home earlier in the game, and obviously they've discussed that. But you know, now that you and Graham are working together, you don't often get the chance to get revenge on somebody for voting you out. Has that come up with the two of you, or have you heard Graham talking about that, or have you thought about basically paying him back?
I think initially after Graham got voted out, we talked about it a little bit. But you know, it was so long ago now that I don't think it's really come up recently. But yeah, I don't think revenge is always the best strategy in these kind of games because it can come back to bite you in the ass anyway.
Can Graham answer that question too? If he's thought it all about.
You might have a different opinion than me.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I came back in, I decided I wasn't going to hold any grudges, no vendettas, no nothing. Everything was a clean slate. Obviously, that was in the back of my mind that he got me. So I wasn't, putting all my eggs in that basket. I was trying to, keep my options as open as possible for as long as possible. So yeah, I don't think vengeance is really a part of my strategy going forward, at least for now.
Do you think Exile Island, would have wanted you to come in and get some payback, or they just want you to go far?
I don't know. Both would be great, I'm sure, in their mind.
It's been pretty quiet lately. What's going on with them?
Have they? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think they wish that I would, be a little bit more vengeful and really kick some ass. But you give it your best shot and you try and survive.
Right on, man. Thank you, Brian. This is a little bit further, or you're getting right to the same point as you lost last game.
It was top 10 last time.
Yeah. So. You're in uncharted territory for yourself. How do you go about trying to get yourself to the end of the game? You don't have to be too specific if you don't want, but just in general.
I mean, I've talked to a few people, and I sort of thinking like my goal right now is thinking in stages, is to get sort of to the top 6 and sort of make sure that it's equal. I mean, that one side isn't like 4 people are all clearly aligned and they get to the top 6, and because I don't think I would win in that scenario because I don't have that strong personal connection with anyone. So I'm trying to find a way that I can be in the top 6 with like an equal, with 2 different alliances or 3 even on equal footing, and then just go from there, and then leave it up to being strong in challenges or personal, like working the social aspect to take it further.
Thanks, Brian. Are you alarmed at all at this point in the game, given that of the 9 of you, soon to be 8, there's still a clear 3-person alliance in the Bastards, and then potentially a pretty clear alliance in the Hamiltons of 3 as well, and that's potentially 6 of 8 next week. Are you worried about that?
Slightly, but I mean, clearly, I've worked closer with the Hamiltons than the Bastards, so I'd be more worried of one than the other. But I think everyone sort of has that same feeling, and I don't know how much to say, but like obviously a lot of stuff went on this week and stuff, and it's not necessarily as clear cut as that, I guess. So I'm just trying to uh, stay out of the way of any collateral damage, I guess.
Let's keep your head down this week. I get it.
Immunity.
Paul, yeah, Paul, I get the feeling in talking with you earlier in the week that you're done. You know, you've been done for a long time, you know, taking it easy in the game. You really wanted to turn it up and start playing. How has that been for you? Has that been fun? Do you feel like that's put you in more danger? Like, what's that been like?
I don't know if it put me in more danger, probably, but I can easily say that it was definitely more fun. I haven't made it this far before, so I've never made it to the merge. So this whole merge dynamic is new for me. So it was a lot of learning, and it definitely had allowed me to flex a couple muscles that I've never had to flex before.
Right on. Thank you. I think that, you know, we can get to the vote at this point, unless anybody has anything they want to say. Kyle, do you have anything you want to take us home to?
Well, why are you asking me?
Because you always have something to say.
There was like
right at the end.
Yeah, Kyle, any music you want to play or anything?
Well, no, I'll save that for when Meg interviews me after I'm voted out. I can't blow everything in one shot here.
Right on.
No,
okay,
I got nothing.
Cool. All right, that's
weird
fine.
The other night. I missed you guys. There you go.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, maybe I'll ask you about that quickly. What was that decision like? Are you glad you did that? Do you think that you would have been in danger if you hadn't?
I mean, there's no way to ever know for sure, but like you get to a certain point and you like got to use stuff up before a certain point in the game, and strategically it seemed like the right place to do it. The outcome wasn't what I expected it would be, but most of the time it probably isn't anyway. So, Chris isn't here. I gotta say, Chris is like, I've underestimated my brother. There, I'll add that. He's done a couple of big boy moves that I didn't see coming. So, yeah, good job, Chris. When you do this,
you couldn't wait till he was here to say that.
What's that?
You couldn't wait till he was here to say that.
No, I would never say
it.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't say it to my little brother either.
It's being recorded, so
it is being.
That's true. Chris is going to see it tonight.
That's fine. And look, I think one thing I've always said too is like I appreciate a good blindside. So like, whatever, man. If it's another one tonight, that's awesome. I'm here for that.
So Brian, I'll just ask you really quickly. Obviously, you lost your closest ally in Dave last week by 1 vote. How surprising was that outcome? And has that changed? Obviously, that's changed your approach now. But how impactful is that to the rest of your game, do you think?
I always knew, and I talked to Dave about it briefly. I knew he had to go at some point, and he was ready to go whenever. So I was sort of just trying to hold on to that as long as I could. But it's a double-edged sword because it also made me more of a target because people looked at me and I had like it was basically I had 2 votes, so it made me more of a target. It gave me a little bit of a buffer that instead of going directly for me, they would go for Dave. Ideally, I would have kept them a couple more votes, but I mean, I think everything turned out okay. So.
Right on. Okay, so now I'll definitely get to the votes. So before I do that, we'll see if anybody is playing a hidden immunity idol, and nobody is today. So no idols being played after 2 idols on Wednesday. So all the votes will be final. The person voted out will become the 6th member of our jury. I'll read the votes. First vote, Paul. Second vote, Graham. Third vote, Paul. That's 2 votes, Paul, 1 vote, Graham. Fourth vote, Graham. We're tied again, 2 votes each. Fifth vote, Paul. 3 votes Paul, 2 votes Graham. 6th vote, Graham. We're tied again, 3 votes each. 7th vote, Paul. 4 votes Paul, 3 votes Graham. 8th vote, Graham. We're tied again, 4 votes Paul, 4 votes Graham, 1 vote left. The next person voted out and the 6th member of our jury is Paul. Paul, I knew you probably knew that was coming, but sorry to say, you're out. Everybody else say goodbye to Paul. Paul, stick around and talk with his friend Meg and I.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Paul.
Bye, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Boo.
Boo.
Sorry.